He casually drew on the canvas for a few times, and it sold for a high price of $5 million. Do you think he's some abstract painter? He's actually just a lazy hooligan. When others come to interview at the tycoon's house, they all dress formally and wait in an orderly manner, but he cut in line with just a blank piece of paper. The tycoon asked him what special skills he had. Aide said, "I'm not here to apply for a job." Turns out, he just wanted to fail the interview on purpose, just so he could claim unemployment benefits after being rejected by employers 3 times. To mess up the interview, Aide even flirted with the tycoon's secretary on purpose and winked at her. Philip showed a rare smile. He used to be a billionaire, but became paralyzed for life due to a parachuting accident. Being paralyzed from the neck down, he had to hire caregivers to look after himself. He interviewed many highly educated professional caregivers, but they all treated Philip as a disabled person, which really annoyed Philip. He hated it when people looked at him with pity. Aide's appearance made Philip particularly relaxed. He decided to give Aide a 1-month trial period because the salary offered was too high. Aide did not refuse. 2 people with completely different personalities, and so began their story of mutual healing. This is a film known as the ceiling of French cinema. 1 million people gave it a high score of 9.3. Butler Didi accompanied Aide on a tour of Philippe's mansion. It's spacious and luxurious here. Even the bathroom alone is bigger than his house. Aide knows nothing about caregiving. The doctor explained caregiving knowledge to him. He started to doze off. Have him lift Philippe into the wheelchair. Almost made him fall. He used shampoo to wash the feet. Applied shower gel to the head. While feeding, he was peeking at the female secretary. He directly poked the food into Philippe's eyes. He thought it was funny. He would pour hot water on Philippe's legs, testing if he really had no sensation. His friends couldn't understand why Philippe would find a thug. Such people have no compassion. And that's exactly what Philippe wanted. What I want is precisely no compassion. He would often forget that I am disabled. Treat me as a normal person. I don't need anyone's pity. And Aide gave Philippe unparalleled respect. He refuses to be treated like any other caregiver when he's out. He puts Phil and the wheelchair into the trunk. Aide feels it's too disrespectful. He opens the sports car and carries Phil inside. The sound of the engine excites them both. One is an eye-opener. The other is a long-lost smile. Phil has never been in a sports car since he became paralyzed, facing the neighbor who parked messily at the entrance. Aide, but not as patient as Phil. He walks over and helps the neighbor out of the car.
Plus fort sur ton porte.
La bonne méthode, ça.
Lis tout.
Emplacement réservé.
Voilà, maintenant t'imprimes, et tu dégages. Allez hop.
Late that night, Phil suddenly starts breathing heavily. Aide quickly wipes his forehead with a towel and comforts him personally, telling him not to be afraid. For a while, Phil calms down. He tells Aide it's a side effect of long-term medication, so Aide lifts him into the wheelchair. They arrive at the riverside at 4 in the morning. The fresh air makes Phil feel much better. This is the first time he experiences Aide's sense of responsibility and care. They arrive at a cafe. Phil tells Aide about his inner pain. He went skydiving with his wife, but then an accident happened. His wife passed away on the spot, and he himself became paralyzed. His real pain wasn't being in a wheelchair, it was his wife's departure. Aide listened quietly on the side. Their relationship also began to grow closer. Philip smiled and told Aide, "You've passed your probation." Aide felt the sense of being recognized for the first time. In the days that followed, Aide's nursing work was no longer clumsy, but rather increasingly skillful. One day, he inadvertently discovered that Philip had a pen pal. Upon asking, he found out that they had been corresponding for half a year. But the insecure Philip hesitated to call the other party. After Aide found out, he decided to help Philip regain his confidence. So he picked up the phone and made the call. Although Philip initially refused, but when the call connected, the two of them chatted away. The pen pal suggested exchanging photos. Philip was worried that the other party would reject him for being disabled. He didn't dare to use a photo of himself in a wheelchair, but Aide believed he should be honest. "This photo of you in a wheelchair looks very spirited." And when the photos were sent out, Philip still had the butler change the photo of himself before the accident. Not long after, Philip received a photo from his pen pal and suggested meeting Philip in person. This got Philip extremely excited. He even took several days to choose his clothes. But this excitement was also accompanied by conflict and self-doubt. He worried that his pen pal would dislike his current appearance. Sure enough, on the day of the date, Philip backed out. He had Aiden push him out of the restaurant, and he also passed by his pen pal. Sure enough, in the face of love, even a billionaire is inevitably insecure. They took a private plane to the place where Philip used to skydive. The two experienced the joy of descending from high altitude. Aiden took Philip out to play every day. They had a snowball fight together, although the snowballs were only one-sided. The joy was mutual. Aiden thought Philip's wheelchair was too slow, so they found a modification shop to install a power boost for him, reaching speeds of up to 30 kilometers per hour. The two also experienced a taste of the fast life. Philip then took Aiden to buy a suit, went to a concert, went to an art exhibition. The abstract painting on the wall is worth $4 million. Philip decides to buy it. Aide appreciates that doesn't move in the eyes of the rich. He thinks it's like graffiti on the street.
Taureau, je vais chez Casto et je vous la fais la trace de mon passage sur Terre. Je vous mets même du blanc en bonus si vous voulez.
Philip's birthday is coming soon. With Aid's involvement, it became much livelier. It's no longer the dull concerts of previous years. Aid leads the servants in presenting a light-hearted dance for Philip. He also painted a picture for Philip as a birthday gift. Philip tells his friends that this is a work of a new and innovative artist. It has already been exhibited in London, and will soon be exhibited in Berlin. Without hesitation, a friend spent $5 million to buy it. Aid is a bit surprised to receive the money. He never thought he had such a talent for painting. Happy days always pass by quickly. On that day, Aid's brother shows up. It turns out his brother accidentally got into trouble. Aid talked to Philip for the first time about his background. It turns out he is an orphan. Later, he was adopted by his mother. His mother worked odd jobs everywhere to support him and his siblings. As the eldest in the family, Aid has never done anything to make his mother proud. He feels very guilty. He feels he should take on the responsibility for his mother. Philip knows that Sophie has left him. Heaven. Aid said goodbye to everyone. Even his disliked secretary now feels very reluctant. When he went out and saw the illegally parked cars again, he didn't use violence. Instead, he advised them kindly. By Philip's side, he also gained growth. After returning home, Aid helped his brother solve the trouble. By virtue of the experience by Philip's side, Aid found a new job. But when looking through the resume, he unexpectedly found the photo Philip had placed incorrectly. It was then that he understood. It turns out that Philip did not send the photo of him in a wheelchair to his friend. That's why he didn't dare to meet his friend. On the other hand, a new caregiver came to Philip's side. They were very cautious, as if constantly reminding Philip of his disability. Philip also grew a beard, looking very dispirited. At night when he had difficulty breathing again, the caregiver stood fearfully at the door, not daring to approach Philip. Angrily drove him away. Helplessly, the butler had to find Aid again. Hope he can help Fayley. Soon, the two met again. Aid still joked as before. He took Fayley out for a spin. They were racing crazily on the road. Soon, the police caught up. Aid said, "I bet $100 I can shake off the cops." But unfortunately, they were soon intercepted by the police. Aid said again, "Add another 200. I bet they not only won't arrest us, but also clear the way for us." After getting out of the car, he blamed the police. His boss fell seriously ill. He had to rush his boss to the hospital for emergency treatment. Who would take responsibility for delaying the treatment? Fayley cooperated fully as well. He started shaking his head and swaying, foaming at the mouth. Seeing the wheelchair in the trunk, they believed it. So the police cleared the way for them. Aid noticed Fayley's unhappiness, so he took him to the seaside. Looking at Fayley's bearded face, Aid started playing around with his face. First like this, then like this, and finally, it turned into a Nazi look. They chose a window seat at the restaurant. Aid returned the stolen egg to Philip. That was a gift from Philip's late wife. Now it's back where it belongs. Aid was getting ready to leave, but not without catching a serious illness. Philip started to get a little flustered, until a beautiful lady walked over. It was his pen pal. As it turns out, Aid secretly arranged a wonderful date for him. Philip finally had the successful date he had initially avoided. His pen pal didn't reject Aid because of his disability, waving goodbye to Philip with a smile. This is a movie adapted from a true story, except in the story, the caregiver was white, but the director intentionally chose a black actor to play the role. This way, the difference in class and race can touch the audience more deeply. Even to this day, they are still each other's most sincere friends. For people with disabilities, what they need may not necessarily be careful attire, but rather, treatment without discrimination, just like ordinary people.